This information session provides an overview of F1 Post-Completion Optional Practical Training Work Permission, or OPT, for University of New Mexico F1 international students. OPT work permission is a 12-month period in which you are authorized to work in paid or unpaid positions, which include any student or staff employment, internship, or volunteer work that is related to your field of study. You do not have to have a job to apply. You know you are authorized to begin work on OPT when you have received the Employment Authorization Document, or EAD card, from USCIS. The EAD card looks like this. Once you are authorized, you must follow rules to maintain your OPT and your legal status in the US. Even though you may have finished your studies, you are still in F1 status until the end of your OPT. This means you still need to follow most F1 rules. An international advisor still needs to sign your I-20 for travel, and both you and UNM need to continue to report information about you in the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, or SEVIS, that is monitored by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's SEVP unit. In other words, you will always need to keep GEO and SEVIS updated with your current information, including your address, employer dates and details, and your immigration status at the beginning of your employment, if you make changes, or if you leave the U.S. permanently. There are other types of OPT. However, this information is only related to full-time post-completion OPT. Full-time means anything more than 20 hours per week. There are many rules for OPT. We are going to review the 10 most important rules about post-completion OPT, sorted by eligibility rules and timing or deadlines. The 5 most important eligibility rules are: 1, you must be in lawful full-time student status for the 2 academic semesters immediately prior to the start of OPT. 2, you must be finished all requirements for the program except thesis or dissertation within 90 days of the date you file the OPT application. This means all coursework, qualifying exams, or other pre-thesis or pre-dissertation requirements must be completed in the next 90 days, as certified by your department advisor. Your thesis or dissertation does not have to be completed to apply. If your application is received by USCIS more than 90 days before you complete your coursework or your qualifying exams, your application will be denied. 3, you must attend an OPT information session with an international advisor, submit all required documents, and receive a new I-20 with the OPT recommendation before you can submit your OPT application to USCIS. While the OPT application is in process, you should not travel out of the US. You should wait until the authorization is complete and you have a job. You will need the EAD card, a signed I-20, a valid visa, and a letter from your employer showing work in your field of study to return to the US. If you do not have these things, you will not be eligible to return to work on OPT. 5, because OPT work must be related to your field of study, you must always be able to describe to UNM, your employer, or any immigration officer how your work relates to the program of study on the I-20 for which the OPT was authorized. The remaining 5 important rules have to do with timing, dates, and deadlines. Rule number 6 is about the application period. You must apply for OPT in the period that begins 90 days before completing the last requirement for your program and the end date of the 60-day period following completion of the last requirement for your program, which is also the end of your F1 grace period. If you do not, you will not be able to apply based on completion of that program. For students in programs with a thesis or dissertation, the last requirement for your program may not be the same as your graduation date. Check with an international advisor before you complete your program requirements so that you can carefully plan your program end date. Also, if you leave the US after completing your program and have not applied for OPT, you are not eligible to apply for OPT based on that program, and you would need to complete a new program of study to qualify for OPT again. 7, the OPT start date. You have to choose a start date for the OPT that is within 60 days of completing all program requirements, even though you may not have a job or know exactly when your future job will begin. Usually, you will have to make an educated guess and inform any future employers if the date is different from the expected employment start date. Rule number 8. The I-20 you submit to USCIS with the OPT application must have the OPT recommendation from an international advisor on page 2. You must submit the OPT application to USCIS within 30 days of the date that I-20 is made, or you will need to get a new one. In other words, your OPT will be denied if the I-20 you submit is more than 30 days old at the time you submit the application. Number 9, you cannot begin work until you receive the EAD card authorizing the work, and the work period as listed on the card has started. Regular OPT processing time is 3 months. If you want to ensure you receive it faster, you must pay for premium processing. And finally, 10, you must be in a job, internship, or volunteer position in your field of study for more than 20 hours per week from the start date until the end of your OPT employment, or you will be accruing days of unemployment. You cannot accrue more than 90 days of unemployment total while on post-completion OPT, or you are out of status. We highly recommend that you get a volunteer or other position in your field of study for the entire OPT work period to avoid falling out of status. There are 3 forms that must be submitted to an international advisor after your information session to receive your new I-20 and be eligible to apply for OPT. The first of these is your advisor recommendation form. Meet with your academic advisor to determine the date you will complete your program requirements. Your advisor must indicate a date of completion on the advisor recommendation form. If you want to apply before you have completed your thesis or dissertation, you will need to have a clear idea about how you will finish these comprehensive requirements while you are working on OPT, especially if you want to qualify for STEM OPT extension, which requires full program completion. The second form is the Student Participation Start Date form. Think realistically about when you might start your OPT employment. Questions you might ask yourself include, do I already have a job offer? And is the start date realistic given current regular OPT processing times? Or, Am I willing to pay an additional fee for premium processing? If I do not have a job yet, how close am I to getting one? Do I have to relocate for a job? And how much time will that take? What is likely to be my next step after post-completion OPT is finished? And does the end date that I select matter? For example, if I'm hoping to get an H-1B, will the OPT date I select go through the H-1B normal filing deadline of April 1st, so that if I'm selected for an H-1B, I will qualify for a cap OPT extension until the H-1 starts? And the third required GEO form is the OPT Student Responsibilities Contract. Be sure to read and understand all the rules on this form before you sign the attestation at the bottom of the form. I am now going to review the OPT application process. Before your OPT appointment, you should read the entire F1 OPT online application handout. All of the steps for applying are on this handout, so follow it closely. You should meet your department advisor to discuss your program end date and have the advisor form signed. You should schedule an OPT appointment with an international advisor. You can do this under the Contact Us link on the isss.unm.edu website. You should think about the date you want the OPT to start. And finally, you should set up an online account with USCIS using your non-UNM email and start the I-7065 application to look at the questions, but do not submit anything yet. At your OPT appointment, you should arrive on time and attend the full OPT appointment with an international advisor. Ask all questions you have about start date or other OPT requirements or the online application. Take notes. Complete all required forms at the appointment or shortly after the appointment is finished. After your OPT appointment, you should send all completed forms as specified by the international advisor who conducted your OPT session, if you have not done this already. Assemble and scan your immigration documents and prepare the photos required for the application, checking them with the online photo tool for accuracy. Prepare to pay the filing fee and any premium processing fee. Wait for the advisor to print your I-20 with the OPT recommendation. And when you receive it, verify that the major, level, and recommendation on the I-20 are correct. Complete the online application, uploading all required documents and ensuring you use a deliverable address on your application. Finally, submit the application as soon as possible, but no longer than 28 days from the date the I-20 was made. After submitting the online OPT application to USCIS, you should confirm that the application was submitted by noting the case number and searching through your online account. Continue to check the application throughout the waiting period. Once you see the online approval, pay close attention to the mailbox at the address you listed. Contact the international advisor promptly if the card is not received within 3 weeks of the online approval. After receiving the EAD card, you should provide a copy of the card to the international advisor, along with any updated employer or address information. Once a date on the card is reached, you should receive an email asking you to create an SEVP portal account to update your address and employer information directly in the SEVIS system. Set up the account within 1 week of receiving the email and contact an international advisor if you do not receive this email invitation, or if you need to reset your SEVP portal account. You can begin working once you have the card and the date on the card is reached. Throughout the OPT period, you should continue to update your SEVP portal account with correct address and current employment information, including start and end dates of employment within 1 week of making any change. Do not remove any employers, and contact GEO if you cannot update the information in the portal for any reason. Remember, any employment must be in your field of study. Submit a GEO request form if you need an I-20 showing a new employment, or you need a signature for travel out of the US. If you travel out of the US while on OPT and your visa is expired, you should talk to an advisor before you travel. Finally, if you are in a qualified STEM major, contact GEO 120 days before your post-completion OPT expires to see if your employment qualifies for STEM OPT. Your STEM OPT application cannot be received more than 90 days before your OPT expires, but STEM OPT has many more requirements and will take more time to prepare if you qualify. OPT is a great opportunity to get work experience in the US. However, you must carefully follow all rules to maintain your legal status while on OPT, or your ability to work will end. Thank you for informing yourself and GEO as you apply for and engage in OPT work permission.